So why is this thought to be a good idea to actually bring these high caliber weapons into U.S. streets?
I don't think it's a good idea. High caliber weapons are extremely dangerous. They have a very high ricocheting velocity, and that means that innocent people are going to get killed and injured. They will be shot. They can go through doors, they can go through cinder block, they can go through metal car doors, and this type of velocity is not necessary. I spent 24 years in the Philadelphia Police Department. We upgraded our Smith & Wessons to Glocks, which are a very powerful pistol, and they worked very well. And there's no reason to have anything stronger than that, except in exigent circumstances, which your SWAT team does have that type of weapon. But for anyone else, they're not necessary, and they're dangerous.
You know, Captain, one might ask, will this equipment not obscure the lines between soldier and police officers, especially in those small communities where they're already being distributed? What's your take on that?
Yes, it will obviously obscure the line between military and the police, but I'm not at all concerned so much with small communities that you mentioned. I'm concerned with the large cities where you have large minority populations living in economically depressed areas. That's where you're going to have problems. You bring this type of equipment into a minority area, you are going to make those people feel as if they're living in an occupied territory. You're going to alienate them. And what happens is you get a halo effect. A halo effect means that that alienation transfers to all the other officers in that department. That alienation transfers to the officers in the patrol cars, the officer on the footbeat, the officers in the community relations division. So bringing that type of equipment is going to alienate people from all parts of the police department. What people don't know is input from community members is one of the most important ways crimes are solved. They know the bad guys in the area. They hear the rumors. They hear the gossip. They know what's going on in their communities. Too many people think that crime is solved through high-tech forensic labs or exemplary investigative work. Not true. Although these two come in very handy in many cases, most of your information about crimes comes from the community. And you bring this military type of mindset into the community, you're not going to get that interaction from the members of that community.
Well, some police officers have said that it's necessary to have these kind of equipment come in, especially if you're covering a protest and it gets out of hand. Police officers are sometimes injured or shot. And so they think that in some ways it is a good idea to have them there.
That is the worst idea I could think of, is to have high caliber weapons at a protest. Think of Kent State, where they shot so many and killed so many innocent people. And they were not high caliber weapons. Can you imagine the massacre that would take place if officers had high caliber weapons? I spent a year in New York City supporting the Occupy movement. I was arrested down there for civil disobedience, and never did I see any type of behavior by those protesters that would ever need any type of weapon, let alone high caliber. If anything, it was the protesters that would have needed high caliber weapons.
Let me talk about the gear itself. It's been used in certain war zones. It's now come back home. There's no need for it anymore there. And so there's a sort of distribution going on here. What should they do then with these kind of equipment if then they can't distribute them within the local police services? If people come out and say, actually, we don't want to see those kind of vehicles on our streets. We have kids. We'd rather not have them here and go back to a much more local policing that we are more comfortable with.
Obviously, you have to listen to the community. The police serve the community. They don't serve us. We serve them. So if they want to go back to a more conventional police force that they feel comfortable with, that's what has to be done. It's imperative.
So what happens to the equipment then at that point? What do you think should happen to that equipment that's being brought back home?
It can be sold to other countries or destroyed. Totally destroyed. I have no problem with them destroying that equipment whatsoever. instead of using it in this country. You see, that equipment can be extremely dangerous getting in the wrong hands. And let me explain that. There are three types of people that join the police department, basically. One joins because of a need for a job that can give him or her a comfortable lifestyle. Second person joins because they want to serve and protect the public. The third type of person joins because they love the power and control. When you have a person that joins because they love the power and control, how do they gain more power and control? They move up the chain of command until they reach police commissioner. Now, once they reach police commissioner, how do they gain more power and control? And this is a sociopathic tendency, by the way. It's insatiable. They never can get enough power and control, just like a billionaire can never get enough money. So you reach the top rung of the ladder, you're a police commissioner, and you want to gain more power. How do you do it? You acquire all this military weapon, the semi-tanks, the MRAPs, the spy drones, and whatnot. And I guarantee you, once you purchase them, they're not going to sit in a warehouse. That police commissioner is going to use them. And I'm very fearful of these type of police commissioners using this equipment. Let me give you the perfect example of what I'm talking about. The Philadelphia Police Commissioner, Charles Ramsey, he was not commissioner when I worked there, but when I attended the Occupy movement and was arrested for civil disobedience, several days later I received an unbelievable threatening letter from him. He stated that he informed me to stop wearing my uniform. It was an order. I retired 10 years previously. He had absolutely no power over me, yet he was so power and control hungry, he tried to order me to stop wearing that uniform. What was most egregious about this letter, and I have it for proof, I have it documented, is he informed me that if I continued to wear the uniform, he would take any and all necessary action to stop me. That is the epitome of a sociopath whose desire for power and control is insatiable. I am fearful of this type of police chief getting this type of equipment.
Okay, Captain, very quickly, last question. Shootings at schools, shopping malls, movie theaters, we've seen those headlines all around America and internationally. How is this equipment, how is the police or whoever's in charge validating having that equipment? Is it going to be able to stop such crimes coming out, continuing?
Absolutely, absolutely not. These crimes are committed by people who never would think twice about, well, wait a minute, should I not do this because the police have high caliber weapons? No, that doesn't stop those mass killings at all. Number one, they know most likely they will be killed by the police or they take their own lives. So this type of equipment will never stop that. Lastly, I want to let you know that corporate America is involved in this. This is a major money market. They will sell this high equipment. The repair, the maintenance for this will come from taxpayers' money. Corporate America will make billions off of this equipment. You heard of the prison industrial complex. You heard of the military industrial complex. Corporate America now wants to make a police industrial complex where they'll make billions off of police departments. Thank you.
Captain Ray Lewis, thank you very much for joining us here on RT International and sharing with us your views on this story.
Tabby, thank you very much for being a beacon of truth of the news in America. Thank you.